The Defiant shuddered as a plasma bolt grazed its hull, the cockpit erupting in a cacophony of alarms and flickering lights. Axel Morgan wrestled the controls, his knuckles white, as Terrace 9's crimson desert loomed below, promising a crash that would make a supernova jealous. "Hold together, you junk heap," he shouted, sweat stinging his eyes. Behind him, Nerra's emerald hands flew across the co-pilot's console, rerouting power with a grace that belied the chaos. "Axel, thrusters failing," she yelled, her iridescent eyes wide with urgency. A pirate fighter screamed past, its cannons blazing, and Axel's heart pounded like a war drum. One wrong move, and they'd be a smear on the dunes, or worse, Vex prisoners. "Well," Axel gritted, forcing a grin, "at least we're going out with a bang." All right, folks, if you're hooked on Axel and Nerra's wild ride, smash that like button and subscribe faster than Axel crashes a ship. Ready for a galaxy of brawls, banter, and beating pirates at their own game? Buckle up. Here's where the real adventure begins. Axel Morgan's ship screamed like a banshee with a hangover as it plummeted toward the rust-colored surface of Terrace 9. The cockpit shuddered, warning lights flashing like a disco for doomed pilots. Axel, a wiry human with a mop of light brown hair plastered to his sweat-soaked forehead, wrestled the controls with the desperation of a man trying to convince a toddler to eat broccoli. "Come on, you stubborn bucket of bolts," he growled, his voice barely audible over the claxons. The trading post loomed ahead, a patchwork of shanty buildings that looked like they'd been slapped together by a committee of drunk engineers. The port thruster coughed its last breath, sending the ship into a spin that made Axel's stomach lurch like he'd just chugged expired protein paste. "Oh, great," he muttered. "Now we're doing barrel rolls without a barrel." His hands danced across the console, firing bursts from the starboard thruster to counteract the spin. Years of dodging asteroid fields and pirate ambushes had honed his reflexes, but Terrace 9's gravity was a particularly clingy dance partner. He gritted his teeth, muscles straining as he coaxed the ship toward a semi-controlled crash. The impact was less graceful landing and more angry meteor. The ship skidded across the desert hardpan, kicking up a plume of reddish dust that could probably be seen from orbit. Axel slammed against his restraints, his shoulder protesting with a bruise he'd feel for weeks. "Well, that's one way to make an entrance," he groaned, unstrapping himself and rubbing his aching arm. A quick glance at the diagnostics confirmed the worst. Navigation fried, thruster kaput, and a fuel cell crack that whispered, "You're not going anywhere, pal." He grabbed his emergency pack and blaster, popping the hatch to a blast of hot, dry air that smelled like dust and regret. Stepping onto the scorched ground, Axel squinted against the twin suns of Terrace 9, their glare turning the trading post into a shimmering mirage of prefab shacks and repurposed shipping containers. A small crowd of aliens, tentacled, scaled, and spiky, gawked from a safe distance, their expressions ranging from curious to, "Is this guy about to explode?" "Nice parking job," rumbled a voice like gravel in a blender. A burly alien with orange, leathery skin and teeth like a shark's worst nightmare approached. "Name's DRA, unofficial greeter of this dust bowl. You didn't hit the cantina, so you're already ahead of most crashlanders." Axel smirked, appreciating the humor despite his predicament. Axel Morgan, professional shipwrecker. Got a mechanic in this scrap heap of a town. DRA chuckled, a sound like rocks tumbling down a cliff. "Mechanic? Sure, if you count Merc, who's more likely to sell you a broken toaster than a working thruster. Try the Rusty Bolt for a drink and some leads. Only bar for 50 clicks, unless you fancy sipping sand." Axel slung his pack over his shoulder, noting the alien's jagged grin. "Lead the way, DRA. I could use a drink that doesn't taste like engine coolant." The walk to the Rusty Bolt was a crash course in Terrace 9's charm, or lack thereof. The trading post was a chaotic sprawl of mismatched structures, like a toddler's block tower after a tantrum. Aliens of every shape and size hustled through the streets, bartering over glowing crystals, questionable tech, and what Axel swore was a crate of pickled tentacles. A three-eyed vendor tried to sell him a self-cleaning, helmet that smelled suspiciously like fermented cabbage. "Pass," Axel said, waving it off. "My head's messy enough without adding mystery odors." The rusty bolt itself was a masterpiece of low expectations. Its corrugated metal walls looked like they'd been welded by someone with a grudge against straight lines, and the sign flickered with half-dead neon. Inside, the air was thick with the stench of alien liquor and unwashed spacers. Miners, drifters, and a few shifty types who screamed pirate slouched at tables, their eyes tracking Axel like he was a walking credit chip. "Fresh meat," someone hissed, but Axel ignored it, striding to the bar with the confidence of a man who'd survived worse dives than this. The bartender, a bug-like creature with too many eyes and mandibles that clicked like a broken typewriter, eyed him warily. "What's least likely to make a human puke?" Axel asked, slapping a credit chip on the counter, a slab of metal that looked suspiciously like a repurposed hull plate. The bartender clicked something that might have been a laugh and slid over a glass of murky green liquid. Axel sniffed it, recoiling. "Smells like a swamp had a baby with a battery." "Cheers." He downed it in one go, wincing as it burned like a laser to the gut. He just paid to poison himself and was somehow still upright. As the bartender turned away, movement caught Axel's eye. A slender figure wove through the crowd, balancing a tray of drinks with the grace of a dancer in a junkyard. Her skin shimmered emerald green, a stark contrast to her flowing silver-white hair that caught the dim light like a halo. She was humanoid, but Axel couldn't place her species. Vidian, maybe? Her presence felt like a cool breeze in the grimy cantina, and he wasn't the only one who noticed. A table of rough-looking aliens leered as she approached, one, a scarred brute with a cybernetic eye, grabbing her wrist. "Why so cold, sweetheart?" the brute slurred, yanking her closer. The woman's face stayed calm, but her shoulders tensed. "Please, Gorn," she said, voice steady. "I have other customers." Gorn's grip tightened, his buddies laughing like hyenas on a bender. Axel's jaw clenched. He'd seen this scene play out in every backwater port from here to Andromeda, and it always ended badly for the server that he briefly imagined tossing Gorn's cybernetic eye into his drink as a garnish, but decided fists would be more direct. He downed the rest of his swamp battery cocktail, wincing again, and pushed off the bar. "Excuse me," he said, strolling toward the table with a casual swagger that belied the adrenaline pumping through him. All eyes turned, including a pair of iridescent ones belonging to the green-skinned woman. "The lady asked you to let go." The cantina hushed, and Axel felt the weight of every stare. He realized he'd just picked a fight on a planet where his ship was a lawn ornament. Inspiring? Maybe. Suicidal? Definitely. But as the woman's eyes flickered with surprise, Axel knew this crash landing was about to spark something bigger than he'd ever expected. The cantina's silence was so thick you could have cut it with a butter knife, and Axel Morgan stood in the middle of it, his hand hovering near his blaster like a gunslinger in a hollow western. Gorn, the scarred Krex with the glowing cybernetic eye, sized him up like a butcher eyeing a particularly lean cut of meat. The aliens' buddies, a motley crew of spiky, scaly, and just plain ugly, spread out, their chuckles fading into growls. The green-skinned woman, Nerra, Axel would later learn, stood frozen, her iridescent eyes darting between him and Gorn, as if weighing whether this human was her savior or just a fool with a death wish. "Mind your own business, soft skin," Gorn rumbled, his voice like a garbage compactor with a grudge. He released Nerra's wrist, but didn't sit, looming over Axel like a sentient bulldozer. "This ain't your planet." Axel kept calm, his smile sharp enough to shave with. "See, Gorn, when you grab someone who's just trying to do their job, you make it my business. Universal rule. Look it up under Don't Be a Jerk." Gorn's cybernetic eye whirred, zooming in on Axel's face like a cheap security cam, and Axel couldn't resist winking at it. "Nice tech. Does it come with a zoom lens for your ego?" The cantina's patrons snickered, and Gorn's organic eye twitched, a sure sign Axel had hit a nerve. Nerra stepped back, her tray clattering slightly, and Axel caught a flicker of something in her expression. Amusement, maybe, or hope. Gorn wasn't amused. He lunged, throwing a punch that could have dented a bulkhead. Axel ducked, feeling the breeze of the fist whistle past his ear, and countered with a quick jab to Gorn's midsection, aiming for the soft spot most humanoids kept below the ribs. The Krex wheezed, doubling over, and Axel used the moment to grab a nearby chair and swing it like a pro wrestler. The chair shattered across Gorn's back, sending him sprawling into his buddies, who tripped over each other like a comedy troupe on a bad day. One of Gorn's pals, a spiky alien with a face like a pissed-off porcupine, got tangled in the wreckage and yelped, "My quills," as he flailed. The fight erupted like a solar flare. Gorn's crew charged, and Axel moved like he'd been born in a brawl. He sidestepped a clawed swipe, using a table as a shield, and tossed a half-empty mug of alien ale into another thug's face. The liquid hissed on contact, and the alien screamed, "It burns." Axel grinned. Should have gone with the light beer, pal. He wasn't the biggest guy in the room, but he was fast, and he fought like a man who'd learned the hard way that honor was great until someone pulled a knife. Nerra, to her credit, didn't just stand there. She ducked behind the bar, re-emerging with a stun baton that crackled with blue energy. She zapped a thug sneaking up on Axel, sending him twitching to the floor. "Didn't need the help," Axel called, dodging a bottle aimed at his head. "But I appreciate the style." Nerra's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Focus, human, or you'll appreciate a concussion." The brawl ended as quickly as it started. Gorn and his crew lay groaning amid splintered furniture, Axel standing over them with split knuckles and a bruise blooming on his jaw. The cantina's patrons returned to their drinks, as if bar fights were just part of the evening's entertainment. The bartender, clicking its mandibles in annoyance, slid Axel another glass of the swampy green liquor. On the house, it rasped, for not breaking the bar. Axel raised the glass. To surviving bad decisions. Nerra approached, her emerald skin catching the dim light like polished jade. Up close, her features were striking. High cheekbones, a straight nose, and lips that looked like they could deliver a quip as sharp as his. "That was reckless," she said, her voice musical but edged with a scold. "Gorn's tied to Captain Vex, the pirate who runs this rock. You just painted a target on your back." Axel flexed his bruised hand, wincing. "You're welcome. Got a name? Or do I just call you Trouble?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Nerra, and you're Axel Morgan, the most wanted idiot on Terrace 9. Axel chuckled, ignoring the ache in his jaw. "I've been called worse. How long before Gorn's pals come knocking?" Nerra scanned the cantina, her eyes narrowing. "Not long. Vex crew doesn't take kindly to humans playing hero. You should leave." Axel grimaced. "My ship's a glorified paperweight. I'm stuck here." Nerra's expression shifted, a mix of calculation and something softer. "Then you need a place to hide until you can fix it. My shift ends soon. Meet me behind the cantina." Before Axel could ask if she was offering help or a trap, she was gone, weaving through the tables with that dancer's grace. He tossed a few extra credits on the bar for the chaos and slipped out the back door, his mind racing. Terrace 9 was a viper's nest, and he'd just kicked it. Outside, the desert air bit at his skin as the suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire and bruise. Axel leaned against the cantina's wall, one hand near his blaster, the other nursing his bruised ego. Trust was a rare commodity in places like this, where loyalty was bought with credits or blood. Nerra could be his ticket out, or his ticket to a shallow grave. Either way, he was in too deep to back out now. As he waited, a scrawny alien kid with 4 arms and a knack for trouble tried to pick his pocket. Axel caught one of the kid's wrists, raising an eyebrow. "Kid, I've got less cash than a monk on a vow of poverty. Try the drunks inside." The kid scampered off, and Axel shook his head, a grin tugging at his lips. Terrace 9 was a mess, but it had spirit, and so did Nerra. Whatever she was planning, Axel had a feeling it would be the kind of adventure that made crash landing worth it. The back door creaked, and there she was, her silver hair glowing faintly in the twilight, ready to pull him deeper into the chaos. The alley behind a rusty bolt was a maze of shadows and discarded junk, smelling faintly of burnt wiring and desperation. Axel Morgan leaned against the cantina's wall, his blaster loose in its holster, eyes scanning for trouble. Nerra emerged from the back door, her emerald skin almost luminescent in the fading light of Terrace 9's twin suns. She'd swapped her serving outfit for practical gear, utility pants, a fitted jacket, and a pack slung over her shoulder that hinted at a hidden weapon. Her silver-white hair caught the breeze, and Axel couldn't help but think she looked like a warrior goddess who'd just clocked out a bar shift. "You're still here," Nerra said, her tone carrying a mix of surprise and approval. Axel shrugged, his bruised jaw aching with emotion. "Not like I've got a five-star resort waiting. Though I'm starting to wonder if you're my ticket to freedom or a one-way trip to a pirate's dungeon." He flashed a grin. "If it's the dungeon, at least make sure it's got a decent view." Nerra's lips twitched, revealing teeth that gleamed like polished pearls against her green skin. "If I wanted you dead, I'd have left you to Gorn's tender mercies. Come on, hero, let's move." She led him through the trading post's back streets, a labyrinth of storage containers, makeshift hovels, and the occasional flickering hollow sign advertising genuine ship parts or slightly used plasma rifles. Aliens of every stripe, tentacled, feathered, or just plain weird, nodded to Nerra as they passed, but eyed Axel like he was a walking liability. "Popular girl," Axel murmured after a squid-like merchant offered Nerra a respectful tentacle wave. She didn't break stride. "I've been here long enough to make friends. And enemies." Her voice held a story she wasn't ready to tell, and Axel didn't push. He learned in ports across the galaxy that everyone carried scars, some visible, some not. They reached a nondescript storage unit on the outpost's edge, its dented door blending into the desert's reddish dust. Nerra tapped the code into a hidden panel, and the door slid open with a groan that sounded like it was complaining about overtime. Inside, the space was small but cozy, a mix of living area, kitchen, and a workshop cluttered with tools and half-built gadgets. "Home sweet home," Nerra said, dropping her pack on a table. "Make yourself comfortable. I'll whip up something edible." Axel eased onto a stool, wincing as his bruised shoulder protested. The room had a lived-in charm, with shelves of alien tech and a hollow frame showing a shimmering nebula that he guessed was her homeworld. Nerra moved with quiet efficiency, pulling ingredients from a cooler and tossing them into a pan that sizzled with promise. Her emerald skin seemed to shift with the light, sometimes deep jade, sometimes glowing like a starfield. "You're staring," she noted, not looking up from her cooking. Axel leaned back, feigning innocence. "Just admiring the chef. Is glowing skin a Vidian thing? Or do you moonlight as a lantern?" She snorted, a surprisingly human sound. "Keep talking, human, and you'll be eating sand for dinner." Despite the quip, her eyes flicked to him with a spark of amusement, and Axel felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the stove. As the aroma of spiced vegetables and synthetic protein filled the air, Axel ventured, "So, Vidian, huh? Never met one before. You're people from that nebula in the hollow frame." Nerra nodded, her expression softening. "The Emerald Nebula. My mother's people. They value connection, harmony, not exactly traits that thrive on Terrace 9. She slid a plate in front of him, the food looking far better than the cantina's swamp juice. "Eat. You'll need your strength for whatever mess you've started." He dug in, the flavors bold and surprisingly comforting. "Not bad," he said between bites. "If the engineering gig doesn't work out, you could open a food stall." Nerra smirked, sitting across from him with her own plate. "Flattery won't get you out of Vex crosshairs. Gorn's boss doesn't forgive bar fights, especially when a human's involved." Axel's fork paused. "Captain Vex, pirate king of this dust ball, right? What's his deal?" Nerra's gaze darkened, her fork tapping the plate like a metronome. "Vex runs Terrace 9 like his personal fiefdom. Raids ships, extorts locals, deals in merchandise." The word carried a weight that made Axel's stomach twist. "I ended up here because of him. My ship, a Venturi cruiser, was ambushed. Crew killed or sold. I was useful, so I stayed." Her voice was steady, but her eyes told a different story, one of loss and defiance. Axel set his plate down, anger simmering. "That's a hell of a story. I'm sorry." Nerra shook her head. Don't be. I survived. And now you're here, stirring up trouble. So, what's your plan, Axel Morgan? Fix your ship and blast off, leaving me to deal with Vex's wrath. Her tone was half challenge, half curiosity, and Axel realized she was testing him. He leaned forward, meeting her gaze. Plan? Step 1. Charm the local Vidian into fixing my ship. Step 2. Maybe stick around to punch a few more pirates. Step 3. Profit, or at least not die. Nerra laughed, a musical sound that lit up the room. You're either brave or insane. Possibly both. She stood, clearing the plates. Your ship's a Tarshan model, right? I saw it on the way in. Old but tough. I can help with repairs, but we'll need parts. Axel raised an eyebrow. You know ships. She smirked, gesturing to the workshop corner. Engineer before I was a barmaid. Vex's ship, the Scourge, has what we need. It docks tomorrow. Risky, but she trailed off, her eyes searching his. Axel didn't hesitate. Risky's my middle name. Well, technically it's Gerald, but don't tell anyone. Nerra's laugh returned, and in that moment, Axel felt a spark. Not just attraction, but a shared defiance against the odds. Whatever came next, they'd face it together, and Terrace 9's dusty streets were about to get a lot more interesting. The storage unit's dim lighting cast long shadows across Nerra's workshop, where tools and half-assembled tech gleamed like treasures in a dragon's lair. Axel Morgan sat on a stool, nursing a cup of something Nerra called Vidian tea, which tasted like optimism distilled into liquid form. His bruised jaw throbbed, a souvenir from the rusty bolt brawl, but the adrenaline from that fight was fading, replaced by the weight of Nerra's words. Vex's ship, the Scourge, was their ticket to fixing his crash-landed heap, but it was also a floating fortress run by a pirate who'd make Gorn look like a cuddly mascot. Nerra leaned against the workbench, her emerald skin catching the light as she studied Axel with those iridescent eyes. You're serious about this, aren't you? She asked, her voice a mix of skepticism and intrigue. Stealing from Vex isn't like picking a fight in a bar. His crew's armed to the teeth, and he's personal about betrayal. Axel sipped the tea, wincing as it burned his tongue. Personal? What? Does he send strongly worded hollow mails before he blasts you? Dear traitor, your disloyalty has been noted. Nerra's lips twitched, but her expression stayed serious. You laugh, but Vex doesn't. He's got a knack for finding weaknesses. Mine, yours, anyone's. She turned to a hollow display, pulling up a schematic of Axel's ship. Your Tarshan's thruster is fried, and the coolant system's leaking like a politician's promises. We need a motivator coil and a sealant matrix. Merc's scrapyard has junk, but the Scourge has pristine parts. Axel leaned forward, studying the schematic. So we sneak in, grab the goods, and sneak out. Like stealing candy from a heavily armed, psychopathic baby. She snorted, a sound that was equal parts amusement and exasperation. You make it sound easy. The Scourge docks tomorrow for supplies and to shake down the locals. Vex stays on board, too paranoid to mingle, but most of his crew hits the cantina. That's our window. Axel nodded, his mind already mapping the heist. He'd pulled off crazier stunts, like that time he smuggled glowworms past a customs blockade by hiding them in his boots. Spoiler. His feet still itched thinking about it. Okay, but if we're caught, I'm blaming you, Axel said, pointing at her. I'll say, Nerra made me do it. She's got this hypnotic green skin thing going on. Nerra rolled her eyes, but a smile broke through. Keep dreaming, human. My skin's not hypnotic. It's just better than your pasty hide. The banter felt like a lifeline, grounding them against the looming danger. They spent the next hour plotting. Nerra's engineering know-how was impressive. She sketched out the Scourge's layout from memory, marking engineering bays and security points. Axel contributed his own expertise, less technical, more how to distract guards with improvised chaos. He suggested rigging a smoke bomb from cantina liquor and spare wiring, which Nerra vetoed with a look that said, I'm not that desperate. Instead, she handed him a security bypass device, a palm-sized gadget that looked like it could hack a bank vault or brew coffee, depending on the settings. As they worked, Axel caught glimpses of Nerra's past and the way she moved, precise, confident, like someone who'd once commanded a cruiser's engine room. "You said you were an engineer," he ventured, "but you handle this place like a general. What's the real story?" Nerra's hands paused over the schematic, her shoulders tensing. "Venturi cruiser, like I told you. Good crew, good life. Then Vex hit us. I fought, but—" She trailed off, her eyes distant. "I ended up here, serving drinks to creeps like Gorn. Survival's a great teacher." Axel felt a pang of anger on her behalf, but he kept his tone light. "Well, survival's about to get a promotion. We're not just fixing my ship, we're sticking it to Vex." Nerra's gaze softened, and for a moment, the air between them crackled with something unspoken. Axel broke the tension by gesturing to the hollow frame of the Emerald Nebula. "By the way, if we pull this off, you owe me a tour of that nebula. I bet it's got better bars than the Rusty Bolt." Nerra laughed, the sound easing the knot in her shoulders. "Deal, but only if you stop making terrible plans." She stood, stretching, her jacket shifting to reveal the outline of a compact blaster. "We should rest. Tomorrow's going to be eventful." Axel nodded, but sleep felt like a distant dream. His ship was a wreck, Vex crew was gunning for him, and Nerra was a wild card who'd already turned his crash landing into a crusade. Yet, as he watched her tidy the workbench with that dancer's grace, he felt a surge of purpose. Terrace 9 was a dump, but it had handed him a fight worth fighting. Nerra pointed to a cot in the corner. "You take that. I'll crash on the floor." Axel shook his head. "No way. You're the host. I'm a guest. I'll take the floor, unless it's booby-trapped." She smirked, tossing him a blanket. "Don't tempt me." As they settled in, the unit's hum of machinery filled the silence, a reminder of the world outside, waiting to chew them up. Axel lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling, his mind replaying the day's chaos. Gorn's punch, Nerra's eyes, the promise of a heist that could either save them or doom them. In the dark, Nerra's voice cut through. "Why'd you do it, Axel? The bar fight. You didn't know me." He considered lying, but the truth slipped out. "Some things are just wrong. Grabbing you like that? Wrong. Plus, I'm allergic to sitting still." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "You're a strange human." Axel grinned into the darkness. "Strange, but useful. Get some sleep, Nerra. We've got a pirate ship to rob." As his eyes closed, he pictured the Scourge's gleaming parts and Nerra's defiant smile, knowing that whatever tomorrow brought, they'd face it with a plan, a blaster, and maybe a few more bad jokes. Terrace 9 hadn't broken him yet, and he'd be damned if it broke her. The storage unit was quiet except for the soft hum of Nerra's workshop gadgets, but Axel Morgan's mind was anything but. He lay on the floor, the blanket barely cushioning the hard surface, replaying Nerra's story about Vex and the Venturi cruiser. Her emerald skin and fierce spirit had pulled him into this mess, and now they were plotting to rob a pirate ship. Sleep was a lost cause, so when dawn's harsh light crept through the unit's tiny window, Axel was already up, nursing a bruise and a plan. Nerra stirred, her silver hair a tangled halo as she rose from the cot. "You look like you wrestled a sandstorm and lost," she said, tossing him a protein bar. Axel caught it, wincing as his bruised shoulder complained. "Thanks for the flattery. I was going for ruggedly heroic, but I'll take sandstorm victim." Nerra's laugh was brief but bright, a spark in the grim morning. They ate quickly, the protein bars tasting like optimism's distant cousin. Nerra pulled up the Scourge's schematic again, her fingers dancing over the hollow display. "Vex's ship is a fortress, but it's not perfect. The engineering bay's our target. Motivator coils and sealant matrices are stored there. We get in during the crew's cantina run, grab what we need, and get out before Vex notices." Axel nodded, his mind mapping escape routes. "Sounds like a picnic if picnics involve heavily armed pirates and a high chance of explosions." Nerra's eyes narrowed, but a smile tugged at her lips. "You're not wrong. Vex stays on board, but he's usually in the command deck, far from engineering. The trick is avoiding the skeleton crew." She handed him the security bypass device, its sleek design humming faintly. "This'll get us through most locks, but if we trip an alarm, we're done." Axel pocketed it, feeling the weight of their gamble. No pressure then, just another day of defying death and stealing from psychos. As they geared up, Nerra's demeanor shifted. Less barmaid, more commander. She strapped a compact blaster to her hip and tucked a vibro knife into her boot, her movements precise. Axel checked his own blaster, a reliable model that had saved his skin from smugglers to sentient slime molds. "You're staring again," Nerra said, catching his gaze. Axel grinned. "Can't help it. You look like you're about to storm a fortress or star in a holodrama." Nerra, pirate's bane. I'd watch it. She rolled her eyes, but didn't hide her amusement. "Focus, human, or you'll be the one needing a dramatic rescue." They slipped out of the unit, the desert air already baking the trading post into a shimmering haze. The streets buzzed with early risers, vendors hawking dubious tech, aliens bartering over glowing ores. A four-armed kid, possibly the same pickpocket from last night, darted past, and Axel patted his pockets to be sure. "Kid's got ambition," he muttered. "Should open a school for sticky fingers." Nerra led them to the outskirts, where Axel's crashed ship sat like a wounded beast, its hull scorched and listing. She ran a hand along the damage, her touch almost reverent. "Tarshan engineering, built to take a beating. Your thruster's the main issue, but the core's solid. With the right parts, I can have this flying in a day." Axel raised an eyebrow. "You're wasted on Terrace 9. Ever consider a career in motivational speeches? Fix your ship, fix your life." Nerra smirked, tapping the hull. "I'll stick to engines. Speeches are your department. Mr. Let's punch pirates for justice." Axel chuckled, but her words hit home. He'd jumped into this fight without a plan, driven by a gut feeling that Nerra was worth the risk. Now, standing by his wrecked ship, he realized this wasn't just about fixing thrusters. It was about giving her a shot at freedom. Their banter paused as Nerra's wrist device beeped, pulling up a grainy feed of the docking bay. The Scourge had landed, a sleek, predatory ship that dwarfed the trading post's ramshackle structures. Its hull gleamed with menace, weapons ports bristling like a porcupine with a bad attitude. "That's our target," Nerra said, her voice low. "Most of the crew's heading to the Rusty Bolt now. We move soon." Axel studied the feed, noting the guards at the ramp. "Skeleton crew, huh? Looks more like a bony regiment." Nerra's eyes met his, a mix of determination and something softer. "Last chance to back out, Axel. Vex doesn't play games." He shook his head, his grin defiant. "Neither do I. Besides, I owe Gorn a rematch, and stealing from his boss sounds like a great start." Nerra's expression softened, and for a moment, the desert's heat felt secondary to the spark between them. She nodded. "Then let's do this. Follow my lead, and try not to start another bar fight." They crept toward the docking bay, blending into the crowd of traders and spacers. The Scourge loomed larger with every step, its shadow swallowing the sunlight. Nerra's knowledge of the post's layout kept them in the alleys, avoiding Vex patrolling goons. At one point, they ducked behind a crate as a pair of pirates swaggered past, arguing over who cheated at cards. Axel whispered, "Bet they're regretting that swamp juice now." Nerra elbowed him, but her stifled laugh was reward enough. At the docking bay's edge, they crouched behind a stack of barrels, watching the Scourge's ramp. Two guards stood watch, their armor patched but their blasters shiny. Nerra handed Axel a small EMP grenade. Non-lethal, short range. Takes out their comms and stuns them for a minute. Axel weighed it in his hand, grinning. "You're full of surprises. Got a tank hidden in that jacket, too." She smirked. "Maybe. Ready?" He nodded, and with a shared glance that felt like a promise, they prepared to breach the lion's den. Terrace 9 had tested Axel's limits, but with Nerra at his side, he was ready to rewrite the rules of survival. The docking bay of Terrace 9 was a chaotic sprawl of crates, fuel drums, and a looming hulk of the Scourge, its sleek hull glinting like a predator's teeth under the twin suns. Axel Morgan crouched beside Nerra behind a stack of barrels that smelled faintly of burnt rubber, the EMP grenade cool in his palm. Nerra's emerald skin blended oddly well with the shadows, her silver hair tucked under a cap to avoid attention. Her iridescent eyes flicked to the two guards at the Scourge's ramp, burly aliens with mismatched armor and blasters that looked like they could punch holes through a moon. 2 guards, no drones, Nerra whispered, her wrist device glowing faintly with a hacked feed of the bay's security. We hit them with the EMP, slip inside, and head for the engineering bay. No heroics. Axel grinned, his bruised jaw aching but his spirit undimmed. Me, heroic? I'm just here for the free ship parts and your sparkling personality. Nerra's eye roll was practically audible, but the corner of her mouth twitched, betraying her amusement. She nodded toward the guards. On my mark. Axel tensed, ready to lob the grenade. The plan was simple. Disable the guards, use Nerra's bypass device to unlock the ramp, and sneak to the engineering bay for the motivator coils and sealant matrices. Simple. That is, until you factored in Vex, the pirate captain who turned Nerra's life into a nightmare. Axel's gut churned at the thought of her story, her crew slaughtered, her freedom stolen. This heist wasn't just about his ship anymore. It was about giving Nerra a chance to reclaim her life. Now Nerra hissed. Axel tossed the EMP grenade with a pitcher's precision, and it landed with a soft clink at the guard's feet. A pulse of blue light erupted, and the guards twitched like they'd been zapped by a rogue power cable, collapsing in a heap. Their comms sparked and died, and Nerra was already moving, her vibro knife gleaming as she checked for more threats. Axel followed, marveling at her speed. Remind me not to play tag with you, he muttered. They reached the ramp, and Nerra slapped the bypass device against the lock. It hummed, green lights flashing, and the ramp hissed open. Inside, the Scourge was a stark contrast to Terrace 9's ramshackle vibe. Polished corridors, humming power conduits, and an eerie quiet that set Axel's nerves on edge. Nerra led the way, her steps silent, guiding them through maintenance shafts to avoid the main halls. Engineering's 2 levels down, she whispered. Stay sharp. Axel's blaster was out, his eyes scanning every shadow. The ship's air was cool, tinged with the metallic tang of recycled oxygen, and he couldn't shake the feeling they were walking into a trap. This place is too clean, he said, ducking under a low pipe. Vex needs to hire a decorator who's less sterile hospital and more cozy pirate lair. Maybe some throw pillows. Nerra shot him a look that said, shut up, but also you're not wrong, and Axel took it as a win. They descended a narrow ladder, emerging into a dimly lit corridor that thrummed with the ship's heartbeat. Nerra's bypass device made short work of the engineering bay's lock, and they slipped inside. The bay was a tech nerd's paradise. Racks of gleaming components, humming consoles, and enough spare parts to rebuild a fleet. Nerra moved with purpose, grabbing a motivator coil and a sealant matrix, her hands steady despite the stakes. Axel kept watch, his blaster trained on the door. This is too easy, he said, unease prickling his neck. I don't trust easy. Don't jinx it, Nerra replied, stuffing the parts in her pack. But as she spoke, a muffled sound echoed from a sealed door across the bay. A cry, faint but unmistakable. They froze, exchanging a glance. That's not on the schematics, Nerra said, her voice tight. Another cry, louder, laced with desperation. Axis gut twistet. Sounds like trouble. The kind we can't ignore. Nerra nodded, her jaw set, and they approached the door, her bypass device already humming. The door slid open, revealing a scene that hit Axel like a punch to the chest. The storage room was a makeshift prison, crammed with over 20 aliens, feathered, scaled, furred, chained to the walls and floor. Bruises and gaunt faces told a story of abuse, and the stench of fear and neglect was overwhelming. A small, feathered alien near the door looked up, its eyes wide with hope. Help! It croaked in broken standard. Nerra's face paled to a lighter green, her breath catching. Stars above. Vex merchandise. Axel's rage burned hot, his grip tightening on his blaster. Slaves? Nerra shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. Worse. Rare species for collectors, fighting pits, whatever pays. The captives stirred, some rattling their chains, others too weak to move. Axel knew their heist plan was shot. They couldn't grab parts and run. Not now. One look at Nerra's stricken expression confirmed she felt the same. "We're getting them out," he said, his voice low but firm. "Great," Nerra muttered, already working on the restraints. "From ship repair to jailbreak. You really know how to plan a date, Axel." Despite the grim scene, her quip eased the tension, and Axel shot back, "Stick with me, and I'll throw in a pirate chase for free." He knelt beside a chained alien, using his knife to pry at the locks while Nerra hacked the control panel. The captives watched, hope warring with fear in their eyes. As they worked, Nerra's voice dropped. "There's something else. Vex is on board. He never leaves the ship during dockings. Too paranoid." Axel's heart sank, but he kept his tone light. "Of course he is. Couldn't make this easy, could he?" The control panel beeped, releasing a set of chains, and the feathered alien stumbled free, clutching Axel's arm. "Thank you," it whispered. Axel nodded, his resolve hardening. Vex was a monster, but Axel had faced monsters before. With Nerra at his side and a room full of souls counting on them, he'd make sure this one didn't win. The Scourge's corridors waited, and their escape was about to get a lot messier. The Scourge's engineering bay hummed with latent power, but the air was thick with the stench of captivity from the makeshift prison. Axel Morgan knelt beside a feathered alien, prying at its chains with his knife, while Nerra's fingers flew over the control panel, unlocking restraints with sharp beeps. The freed captives, 20-plus aliens of every shape and hue, huddled together, their eyes wide with a mix of hope and terror. Axel's bruised jaw ached, his side stinging from the bar fight, but the sight of those chains fueled a fire in him hotter than Terrace 9's suns. Nerra's emerald skin gleamed with sweat as she released another set of restraints, her vibro knife ready at her side. "We can't take them all through the corridors," she said, her voice low but urgent. "Vex crew will be back soon, and he's already on board." Axel nodded, his mind racing. Their heist for ship parts had morphed into a full-blown rescue, and the clock was ticking louder than a malfunctioning warp drive. "Any bright ideas?" "Because run and hope isn't my best plan." Nerra shot him a look, her iridescent eyes glinting. "You? Plan? I thought you just punched things and hoped for applause." Axel grinned, despite the stakes. "Ouch, straight to the heart. But I'm open to suggestions from the galaxy's prettiest engineer." Her lips twitched, but she stayed focused, gesturing to a ventilation grate above. "The vents connect to the auxiliary hangar. There's a shuttle there. Maybe two. It's our best shot." Axel eyed the grate, then the captives. Some were small, like the feathered alien clutching his arm. Others, like a hulking blue-skinned brute, looked like they'd need a crowbar to fit. "Tight squeeze for some of them," he said, "but beats staying here." He turned to the blue-skinned alien, who rumbled, "I will not fit. I stay fight." Axel shook his head. "No way, big guy. We're all getting out." "Nerra, any bigger routes?" She bit her lip, thinking. "Maintenance tunnels. They're wider, but riskier, cameras and patrols." "Risky's our brand now," Axel said, helping a frail, tentacled alien to its feet. "You take the vents with the smaller ones. I'll lead the big guy through the tunnels. Meet at the hangar." Nerra hesitated, her eyes searching his. "Axel, if Vex finds you," he squeezed her shoulder, his touch steady. "He won't. Go." With a nod, she started organizing the smaller captives, her voice calm, but commanding as she directed them to the grate. Axel turned to the blue-skinned alien and the remaining larger captives. "All right, team, we're taking the scenic route. Stay quiet, stay close." He pried open a maintenance hatch, revealing a dimly lit tunnel that smelled like oil and bad decisions. The blue-skinned alien ducked inside, followed by a spiky creature and a four-legged alien with too many eyes. Axel brought up the rear, blaster ready, his heart pounding like a drum solo. The tunnel was a claustrophobic maze of pipes and conduits, the walls vibrating with the Scourge's pulse. Axel kept the group moving, whispering encouragement to the weaker ones. "Almost there," he lied, hoping the hangar wasn't a myth. When the spiky alien's quills snagged on a pipe, Axel muttered, "Buddy, you're like a porcupine in a knitting shop. Walk softer." The alien grunted, possibly a laugh, and Axel took it as a small victory. Halfway through, A distant clang froze them in place. Voices echoed. Vex crew, maybe, or worse, Vex himself. Axel signaled for silence, his blaster trained on the tunnel's bend. The voices faded, but the tension lingered like a bad hangover. "Keep moving," he whispered, urging the group forward. The blue-skinned alien, who'd introduced himself as Core, rumbled. "You are brave, human, or foolish." Axel smirked. "Bit of both. Stick with me, Core, and you'll see which wins." They reached a junction where the tunnel widened, and Nerra's group emerged from a vent above, dropping silently to the floor. Her cap was gone, her silver hair loose, and she looked like she'd just outrun a sandstorm. "No patrols in the vents," she reported, her eyes dropping to Axel's blood-streaked shirt. "You're hurt worse than you're letting on." He waved it off, though the pain was a persistent nag. "Just a scratch. Hangar's close, right?" She pointed down the tunnel. "One level down, then east. But it's open ground to the shuttle." Axel nodded, his mind already on the next step. The captives, now reunited, moved as one, their fear tempered by determination. Nerra's leadership had rallied them, and Axel's defiance kept them pushing forward. As they neared the hangar, Core nudged Axel, his massive hand nearly knocking him over. "Human, you fight for us." "Why?" "No profit." Axel chuckled. "Profit's overrated. Besides, I'm allergic to leaving people in cages. Bad for my complexion." Nerra overheard, her smile brief but radiant. "You're impossible," she said, but her tone held warmth. They reached a grate overlooking the auxiliary hangar, where a single shuttle sat, its engines cold but ready. "No guards for now." "That's our ride," Nerra whispered. "We'll need to move fast." Axel peered through the grate, calculating the distance. The captives were exhausted, some barely standing, but they'd come too far to fail. He met Nerra's gaze, a silent pact passing between them. Vex's shadow loomed, but they'd face it together, with a stolen shuttle and a crew of misfits who'd just found a reason to hope. Terrace 9 had broken plenty, but it wouldn't break them. Not today. The Scourge's auxiliary hangar was a cavernous space, dimly lit by flickering overheads that cast long shadows across the lone shuttle parked on the deck. Axel Morgan peered through the ventilation grate, his bruised body aching, but his focus razor-sharp. Beside him, Nerra's emerald skin glowed faintly in the dark, her silver hair tucked behind her ears as she scanned the hangar for threats. The freed captives, 20-plus aliens of every shape and size, crouched behind them in the cramped junction, their ragged breaths a reminder of the stakes. The shuttle was their ticket out, but the open ground between the grate and the craft was a gauntlet waiting to be run. "No guards," Nerra whispered, her wrist device confirming the hangar security feed was clear. "But that won't last. Vex crew will notice the missing prisoners soon." Axel nodded, his blaster gripped tightly. "We go in waves? You and Core get the shuttle powered up. I'll bring the others." Nerra's eyes met his, concern flickering in their iridescent depths. "Don't play hero, Axel. We need you alive," he flashed a grin. "Hero? Nah. I'm just the guy who forgot to pack a vacation plan." "Go." Nerra hesitated, then leaned in, her lips brushing his in a fierce, fleeting kiss that sent a jolt through him stronger than the rusty bolt's swamp juice. "Don't die," she murmured, her breath warm against his cheek. Axel's heart skipped, but he kept it light. "Not on my to-do list." She smiled, a rare, radiant thing, then pried the grate loose and dropped to the deck with cat-like grace. Core, the hulking blue-skinned alien, followed, his massive frame somehow silent as he sprinted for the shuttle. Axel turned to the captives, their eyes, beaked, multifaceted, or just plain weird, fixed on him with a trust that felt heavier than his blaster. "All right, folks, time to run like you stole something." Because, well, we did. He organized them into groups, prioritizing the weakest. The feathered alien from the cell, barely able to stand, clung to his arm. "You help?" It whispered in broken standard. "Why?" Axel paused, then said, "Because cages suck, and freedom's better." "Ready." It nodded, and Axel felt a surge of purpose. These weren't just victims, they were survivors, and he'd be damned if Vex got them back. The first group dashed across the hangar, their footsteps echoing like a herd of spooked livestock. Nerra and Core reached the shuttle, and Axel saw her slip inside, her hands already on the controls. The engines hummed to life, a low growl that felt like hope. But as the second group prepared to move, a klaxon blared, red lights flashing across the hangar. "Well, that's inconvenient," Axel muttered, his stomach sinking. Vex's crew had noticed the jailbreak. The spiky alien from the tunnels, its quills rattling nervously, hissed, "Human, your plan is loud." Axel shot back, "Yeah, but it's got style. Run." He shoved the group forward, covering them with his blaster as they scrambled for the shuttle. Nerra popped out of the hatch, her own blaster firing warning shots at the hangar's entrance, where shadows moved. Vex goons, closing in. Axel pushed the feathered alien toward the shuttle, then turned to the final group, including a four-legged alien with too many eyes. "Go now," he barked, sprinting beside them. A plasma bolt sizzled past his head, singeing his hair. "Okay, Rude," he yelled, firing back blindly. Nerra's voice crackled through his comm. "Axel, move your ass. We're out of time." He couldn't help but grin. She sounded like she cared, which was better than swamp juice any day. The hangar doors slid open, revealing a squad of pirates, their armor clanking as they raised their weapons. Axel dove behind a fuel drum, dragging the four-legged alien with him. "Stay low," he hissed, peeking out to see Nerra and Core laying down cover fire from the shuttle's ramp. The captives piled inside, some tripping in their haste, but all making it. Axel's side burned, the bruise from Gorn's punch now a screaming agony, but he ignored it. "One last sprint," he told the alien. "Think of it as cardio." The four-legged alien blinked its many eyes, then said, "Cardio bad. Freedom good." Axel laughed, despite the chaos. "You're my kind of philosopher." He grabbed its arm, hauling it toward the shuttle as plasma bolts lit up the deck like a lethal light show. Nerra's shots kept the pirates pinned, and Core's roar, half threat, half encouragement, echoed through the hangar. Axel and the alien dove through the shuttle's hatch, landing in a tangle of limbs and quills. Nerra slammed the hatch shut, the shuttle's engines roaring as she gunned the controls. "Hold on," she shouted, and the craft lurched upward, bursting from the Scourge's hangar like a cork from a bottle. Inside, the captives clung to anything stable, their cries mixing with the engine's scream. Axel pushed his way to the cockpit, wincing as his side protested. Through the viewport, Terrace 9's dusty surface fell away, but the Scourge's shadow loomed behind, its engines powering up for pursuit. "Vex isn't letting us go that easy," Nerra said, her hands a blur on the controls. "They're launching fighters." Axel slid into the co-pilot's seat, scanning the sensors. "This shuttle's got the speed of a drunk turtle. Any tricks up your sleeve?" Nerra's eyes glinted with defiance. "Maybe, but we need to reach your ship." Axel raised an eyebrow. "My lawn ornament? It's barely flyable." She smirked. "Trust me, human. I've got a plan." As the shuttle skimmed low over the desert, kicking up a dust plume, Axel felt the weight of the captive's trust, Nerra's kiss, and the fight ahead. Vex was coming, but Axel had something Vex didn't, a crew of misfits and a partner who'd turned a crash landing into a cause. Humor aside, this was about more than survival. It was about proving that even on a dust ball like Terrace 9, a human stubborn heart could outshine a pirate's greed. The Scourge's fighters closed in, but Axel was ready to show them what fight smart really meant. The shuttle screamed across Terrace 9's desert, its engines whining like a toddler denied a snack, while behind it, the Scourge's pursuit fighters sliced through the sky like knives through butter. Axel Morgan gripped the co-pilot's seat, his bruised side throbbing with every lurch of the craft. Nerra's emerald fingers danced over the controls, her face a mask of focus as she juked the shuttle through a canyon, red dust swirling in their wake. The captives in the back clung to each other, their alien faces a mix of fear and stubborn hope, their trust in Axel and Nerra heavier than the shuttle's creaking hull. "Those fighters are gaining," Axel said, eyeing the sensors, which blipped angrily with incoming threats. "This thing's got less speed than my grandma's hover scooter." Nerra didn't look up, her silver hair plastered to her forehead. Then stop whining and help. Check the countermeasures. Axel flicked switches, finding a pathetic array of chaff dispensers and a single flare launcher. Countermeasures? This shuttle's defense is basically hope they're bad shots. Did Vex steal this from a museum? Nerra's lips twitched, but her eyes stayed on the viewport. Focus, human. We're heading for your ship. The part we grab can fix its weapons, maybe give us a fighting chance. Axel's eyebrows shot up. My ship? The one that's currently a desert decoration? You're betting our lives on a hunch. She shot him a sidelong glance, her iridescent eyes glinting. Not a hunch. Engineering. Trust me. Axel leaned back, impressed despite the chaos. All right, but if we die, I'm haunting you first. The shuttle dove lower, skimming dunes so close Axel swore he saw a lizard wave goodbye. A missile warning screeched, and Nerra yanked the controls, sending them into a barrel roll that had the captives yelping. The missile streaked past, detonating in a fireball that lit up the canyon. Nice flying, Axel said, his stomach somewhere near his knees. Where'd you learn that? Nerra's voice was tight. Venturi cruiser. Dodging Vex raids. Hang on. The sensors blared again. Two fighters closing fast, their cannons spitting plasma that scorched the sand below. Axel fired the chaff, a cloud of metallic flecks that confused one fighter's targeting, sending it veering off. The other stayed, glued to their tail. This guy's stickier than that swamp juice from the rusty bolt, Axel muttered, launching the flare. It popped brightly, and the fighter swerved, but not enough. Okay, new plan. We bribed them with my charming personality. Nerra ignored him, banking hard toward a familiar shape on the horizon. Axel's crashed ship, its scorched hull a beacon of desperate hope. We land, get inside, and use your ship's weapons, she said. The motivator coil will stabilize the cannons, and the sealant matrix can patch the targeting array. Axel blinked. You memorize my ship's damage report? Marry me. She snorted, but a flush darkened her emerald cheeks. Survive first, then we'll talk. They reached the crash site, the shuttle touching down in a swirl of dust that could have choked a star. Everyone out, Axel shouted, helping the captives scramble toward his ship's hatch. Kor, the blue-skinned giant, carried two weaker aliens like they were groceries, his rumble of encouragement oddly soothing. The feathered alien clung to Axel, its eyes wide. Safe now? It asked. Axel forced a grin. Safer than staying with Vex. Move. Inside, the ship was a mess of exposed wiring and scorch panels, but it felt like home. Nerra beeline for the engineering bay, the stolen parts in her pack. Axel led the captives to the cargo hold, where they huddled, watching the viewport as the Scourge's fighters circled like vultures. Nerra, talk to me, he called, sprinting to the cockpit. Her voice crackled over the comm, coils in, sealants holding. Weapons online, but we've got juice for maybe 3 shots. 3 shots. Axel slid into the pilot's seat, hands flying over the targeting controls. Guess we'll make M count. The Scourge itself loomed on the horizon, its engines roaring as it descended, a predator smelling blood. Vex's voice hissed through the comm, dripping venom. You thought you could steal from me, sister? Surrender, and I'll only skin the human. Axel smirked, flipping the comm on. Hey, Vex, remember that bar fight? This is going to hurt worse. Nerra's voice cut in from engineering. Axel, stop taunting the Pirate King and aim for the stabilizer. 1 shot, make it count. Axel chuckled. Yes, dear. Firing now. He locked onto the Scourge's primary stabilizer, a glowing weak point Nerra had pinpointed. The cannon hummed, power surging, and he fired. The energy beam lanced through the sky, striking the Scourge with a flash that could have lit up a nebula. The ship lurched, secondary explosions rippling along its hull as the stabilizer failed. The Scourge plummeted, crashing a kilometer away in a shockwave of dust and debris that rocked Axel's ship. The captives cheered, a wild mix of alien voices united in triumph. Axel sagged in his seat, adrenaline fading, his sides screaming. Nerra appeared in the cockpit, her face flushed with exertion but glowing with victory. Direct hit, she said, her smile brighter than the sun's. Not bad for a crash lander. Axel grinned, wincing as he stood. Couldn't have done it without you. Now what? Vex isn't dead, and we're still on his turf. Nerra's hand found his, her touch cool and steady. We finish repairs, get these people somewhere safe. Together. The word carried weight, a promise forged in dust and defiance. Axel squeezed her hand, feeling the spark from that hangar kiss reignite. Terrace 9 had tried to break them, but with Nerra's brains and his stubborn heart, they'd turned a crash into a rebellion. The fight wasn't over, but for now, they'd won. Axel Morgan slumped in the cockpit of his battered ship, the adrenaline from their narrow escape fading like a cheap hollow show. Outside, Terrace 9's desert stretched endlessly, the Scourge's distant wreckage smoldering under the twin suns. Inside, the cargo hold buzzed with the freed captives, 20-plus aliens, from a feathered one who kept thanking Axel to core, the blue-skinned giant who was currently rearranging crates to make space. Nerra stood beside Axel, her emerald skin dusted with grime, her silver hair a mess, but her iridescent eyes burned with a fire that made his heart skip. "Your ship's a mess," she said, gesturing to the sparking console. "But it's got heart, like its pilot." Axel grinned, ignoring the stab of pain in his side. "Heart? I was going for rugged charm, but I'll take it. You sure you're not just sweet-talking me for my ship's fancy duct tape collection?" Nerra's laugh was soft but genuine, a sound that felt like a victory in itself. "Keep dreaming, human. Now help me finish repairs." The captives, surprisingly, pitched in. The feathered alien, who introduced itself as Shri, had a knack for rewiring, its tiny claws deftly splicing cables. Core's brute strength lifted panels Nerra couldn't budge, and even the spiky alien, despite its grumbling, sorted tools with grudging efficiency. "Didn't sign up for a community project," Axel muttered, hauling a coolant canister. "But I'll take the free labor." Nerra smirked, elbow deep in the engine bay. "They're not labor. They're crew. You're stuck with us now." Her words hit deeper than he expected. Axel had always been a lone spacer, drifting from job to job, but this ragtag group felt like something more, a purpose he hadn't known he was missing. As they worked, Nerra patched the thruster with the stolen sealant matrix, her engineering skills turning the ship from glorified lawn ornament to barely space-worthy. The motivator coil hummed, stabilizing the engines, and by dusk, the ship was ready to limp off Terrace 9, assuming Vex didn't send a second wave. Axel's side ached worse now, blood seeping through his shirt, and Nerra noticed. "You're a mess," she said, pulling him to a corner that served as a makeshift medbay. She cleaned his wound with a medkit, her touch gentle but precise. "This is deeper than you let on. Another inch, and you'd be explaining yourself to the stars." Axel winced built-in one wincing. "Lucky for you, I've got a thick skull. I'll be fine, Doc. Just patch me up so I can keep causing trouble." Nerra's eyes narrowed, but a smile tugged at her lips. "Trouble's your middle name, right? Not Gerald." Axel chuckled, wincing as she applied a bandage. "You remembered." "I'm touched." Her fingers lingered on his skin, and the air between them crackled, a reminder of that fierce hangar kiss. He caught her hand, his voice soft. "Thanks, Nerra, for everything." Her flush deepened her emerald hue, but she pulled away, businesslike. "Thank me by not bleeding out." As night fell, the captives gathered in the cargo hold, their faces less haunted now. Shri spoke, its voice stronger. "Human, you save us. Why risk life?" Axel leaned against a crate, feeling every bruise. "Because it's right. You don't leave people in cages, not if you can help it." Core nodded, his rumble thoughtful. "Human right. Strange. Good." The simplicity of it made Axel smile. "Yeah, strange and good. That's me." The group discussed next steps. Nerra outlined safe worlds in the Emerald Nebula, her mother's home, where refugees could rebuild. "It's far, but my people value harmony. They'll help." Axel watched her, seeing the leader she'd once been on that Venturi cruiser. "Sounds like a plan," he said. "We get these folks home, or to new ones. Together." Her eyes met his, shimmering with emotion. "You do that? Change your life for strangers." He nodded, his voice low. For them. For you. Core clapped Axel's shoulder, nearly knocking him over. Human small but big heart. Like tiny bomb. Axel coughed, laughing. Thanks, Core. I think. The moment eased the tension, and the captives murmured agreement. Their trust in Axel and Nerra, a bond forged in fire. The ship's engines thrummed, ready for takeoff, and Axel felt a swell of pride. Terrace 9 had been a crash-landing disaster, but it had given him a crew, a cause, and Nerra, a partner who made the galaxy brighter. As they prepared to leave, Axel stood at the viewport, the desert's red dust fading into twilight. Nerra joined him, her presence a quiet strength. Second thoughts? She asked. He shook his head. Not one. You. Her smile was radiant. None. This is right. The ship lifted off, the stars beckoning, and Axel knew this was just the start. With Nerra and their misfit crew, he'd face any storm, proving humans could shine brighter than any pirate's greed. The stars streaked past the viewport as Axel Morgan's ship, freshly patched and humming with borrowed life, broke free of Terrace 9's dusty grip. The cockpit was a tangle of rewired panels and flickering displays, but it held together, a testament to Nerra's engineering wizardry. Axel sat in the pilot's seat, his bandaged side aching but his spirits soaring higher than the ship's altitude. Nerra stood beside him, her emerald skin catching the starlight, her silver hair loose and glowing like a comet's tail. The captives, now crew, filled the cargo hold, their murmurs of relief and hope a quiet backdrop to the engine's thrum. Stable orbit, Nerra announced, her hand steady on the co-pilot's controls. Engines are at 60%, but they'll get us to the Emerald Nebula if we don't push too hard. Axel grinned, leaning back. 60%? That's practically luxury compared to crash landing. You're a miracle worker. Her iridescent eyes flicked to him, a mix of pride and amusement. Miracle worker? Don't get used to it, human. Next time, try not to crash your ship into a desert. Axel chuckled, wincing as his wound tugged. No promises. But I owe you one. Maybe a fancy dinner when we hit a planet with actual food. Nerra's smile was brief but warm, and the air between them hummed with the unspoken spark from their hangar kiss. The moment was cut short by a soft beep from the sensors, and Nerra's expression hardened. Debris field ahead, scourge wreckage, probably. We need to navigate carefully. Axel nodded, hands on the controls. Let's not add space junk collision to our resume. The ship wove through the field, chunks of twisted metal glinting in the starlight. The Scourge's crash had scattered its guts across orbit, a grim reminder of Vex's defeat, but not his death. Axel's gut told him the pirate wasn't done, and Nerra's tense posture said she felt it too. He's out there, she said quietly, her eyes on the sensors. Vex doesn't quit. Not ever. Axel's jaw tightened. Then we'll be ready. He's not getting you, or any of them, back. In the cargo hold, the captives were settling in. Shri, the feathered alien, had rigged a makeshift charging station for the ship's portable devices, its claws surprisingly nimble. Core organized sleeping arrangements, his massive frame gentle as he helped weaker aliens on cots. The spiky alien, who'd grudgingly introduced itself as ZYK, muttered about soft humans but still helped distribute ration packs. Axel watched through the cockpit's open hatch, marveling at their resilience. They're tougher than they look, he said. Like us. Nerra nodded, her voice soft. They've survived Vex. That's no small thing. She hesitated, then added, You gave them hope, Axel. That's rarer than you think. Her words hit hard, stirring something in him. A sense of purpose he'd never found in solo runs across the galaxy. Hope? I thought I was just handing out bad jokes and blaster shots. Gotta update my business card. Nerra's laugh was a melody, easing the tension in the cockpit. As they cleared the debris field, Nerra pulled up a star chart, plotting a course to the Emerald Nebula. It's a week's journey at this speed, she said. My mother's people will take the refugees in. They got sanctuary worlds, places Vex can't touch. Axel studied the chart, noting the nebula's shimmering expanse. Sounds like paradise. Your mom's side must be proud of you. Nerra's expression flickered, a shadow of old pain. I haven't seen them since I was taken. But they'll help. It's who they are. Axel reached for her hand, his touch light but firm. You're going home, Nerra, and you're not alone. Her fingers curled around his, and for a moment, the galaxy shrank to just them, two survivors defying the odds. The moment broke when Kor lumbered into the cockpit, his blue bulk filling the doorway. Human, small bird thing wants you. Says teach human thing. Axel raised an eyebrow. Shri, teaching me? This I gotta see. In the cargo hold, Shri perched on a crate, clutching a small hollow device. Human Axel. It chirped, you save. I teach. Share. It activated the device, projecting a shimmering image of its homeworld, a planet of golden skies and crystal spires. The other captives gathered, their faces softening as Shri described its culture of song and flight. Axel listened, captivated, as Shri's broken standard wove a story of loss and hope. Shri, you're a poet, Axel said. But if I try singing, you'll beg Vex to take me back. The captives laughed, even ZYK's quills rattling with amusement. The exchange sparked others to share. Kor spoke of his clan's volcanic forges, ZYK of desert caves where stars sang. Axel realized this wasn't just a rescue. It was a tapestry of lives, each thread vital. He glanced at Nerra, who watched with shimmering eyes. They're building something, she whispered. A community. Axel nodded. And we're part of it. Let's get them home. Back in the cockpit, Axel set the autopilot, the nebula's coordinates locked in. The ship hummed, a fragile but defiant vessel carrying a cargo of dreams. Terrace 9 was behind them, but Vex's shadow lingered, a storm they'd faced together. With Nerra's brilliance, the crew's resilience, and his own stubborn heart, Axel knew they'd carve a path through the stars, proving humanity's spark could light even the darkest corners of the galaxy. The hum of Axel Morgan's ship was a steady pulse as it cruised toward the Emerald Nebula, its patched engines holding together like a stubborn old friend. Axel leaned back in the pilot's seat, his bandaged side aching less thanks to Nerra's medkit magic. The cockpit's viewport framed a sea of stars, but his eyes kept drifting to Nerra, her emerald skin glowing softly as she fine-tuned the navigation. Her silver hair caught the console's light, and Axel felt that hangar kiss lingering like a promise. The cargo hold buzzed with the captives, now crew, sharing stories and ration packs, their voices a hopeful chorus. Engines are stable, Nerra said, her iridescent eyes scanning the readouts. But we're burning fuel faster than I'd like. We'll need to stop for supplies before the nebula. Axel nodded, scratching his jaw, still tender from Gorn's punch. Any friendly ports nearby? Or are we stuck bartering with more pirates? Because I'm fresh out of bar fights, unless they take IOUs for bruises. Nerra's laugh was a quick spark, warming the cockpit. There's a free trader outpost in the Zynar system. Neutral, mostly honest. We can refuel and restock. Axel pulled up the star chart, spotting the Zynar system, a cluster of stations orbiting a gas giant. Neutral sounds good. I could use a shower and something that doesn't taste like protein paste. Nerra smirked. Keep dreaming, human. You'll need more than a shower to fix that Crashlander charm. The banter felt like a lifeline, grounding them against the uncertainty of Vex's lingering threat. Axel's gut told him the pirate wasn't licking his wounds on Terrace 9. He was plotting, and they needed to stay sharp. In the cargo hold, the crew was knitting into a community. Shri, the feathered alien, had rigged a hollow projector to display star maps, teaching the others about navigation with a chirpy enthusiasm. Kor, the blue-skinned giant, was showing ZYK how to reinforce crates, their grumbling banter oddly endearing. The four-legged, many-eyed alien, dubbed Blink by Axel, kept watch at the hold's viewport, its eyes swiveling like a paranoid security cam. Axel wandered in, curious. You guys starting a space academy back here? Shri fluttered its wings. Human Axel, we learn. Share. Stronger together. Axel smiled, struck by the simplicity. You're preaching to the choir, Shri. Keep it up. ZYK's quills rattled as it hefted a crate. Human talks too much. Less talk, more lift. Axel laughed, clapping ZYK's spiky shoulder carefully. Fair point, but my talk got us off Terrace 9, so maybe it's not all bad. ZYK grunted, but its quills twitched in what Axel hoped was amusement. Back in the cockpit, Nerra's wrist device beeped, pulling up a faint signal. Distress call, she said, her voice tense. It's weak, but it's from a small craft, not far off our course. Axel frowned, his instincts warring. Could be a trap. Vex knows we're out here. Nerra's eyes met his, weighing the risk. Could be, but it could also be someone like them. She nodded toward the hold, where the crew's voices echoed. Axel sighed, knowing she was right. All right, let's check it. But if it's Vex, I'm billing him for my therapy. They adjusted course, the ship groaning as it veered toward the signal. The source was a battered escape pod, drifting in the void, its hull scored by plasma burns. Scan showed one life sign, faint but steady. No weapons, no traps, Nerra said, but her hand rested on her blaster. Axel hailed the pod, getting only static. Friendly or not, they're in trouble. Let's bring him in. Nerra nodded, guiding the ship to dock with the pod's airlock. Core and ZYK joined them at the airlock, ready for trouble. The pod's hatch opened, revealing a lone occupant. A wiry alien with translucent skin and glowing veins, slumped but alive. Medic, it gasped in standard, its voice reedy. Nerra knelt, scanning it with a medkit. Shock and dehydration. They'll live. The alien's eyes focused on Axel. You save? Not Vex. Axel nodded. Yeah, we're the good guys. Mostly, unless you count my cooking, which is a war crime. The alien, who called itself Liar, was a refugee from a raided colony, fleeing Vex goons. He hunts, Liar whispered as Nerra treated them. Vex tracks all who escape. Axel's jaw tightened, meeting Nerra's gaze. Then we keep moving, she said. Zynar's our next stop. We refuel, rearm, and get Liar and the others to the nebula. Axel helped Liar to the hold, where Shri and Blink welcomed them like family. The crew's resilience was a beacon, and Axel felt it light something in him, a defiance that Vex couldn't snuff out. Back in the cockpit, Axel set the course for Zynar, the stars a reminder of the vastness they'd faced together. Nerra's hand brushed his, a quiet anchor. You're good at this, she said softly. Saving people. He shrugged, his grin lopsided. Just following your lead, partner. With a crew of misfits, a ship held together by grit, and Nerra's fire at his side, Axel knew they'd outrun Vex's shadow and shine brighter than any pirate's greed. The Zynar outpost waited, and with it, the next step in their rebellion. The Zynar system's gas giant loomed through the viewport, its swirling blues and purples a stark contrast to Terrace 9's dusty reds. Axel Morgan's ship, now christened Defiant by the crew, glided toward the Free Trader outpost, a sprawling ring of interconnected stations orbiting the giant's rings. The cockpit was a hive of activity, with Nerra fine-tuning the engines and Axel nursing a cup of recycled coffee that tasted like regret. His bandaged side still ached, but the crew's growing camaraderie, Shri's chirps, Core's rumbles, and even ZYK's grumbles, kept his spirits high. Outpost controls cleared us to dock, Nerra said, her emerald fingers dancing over the comms. They're neutral, but keep your blaster close. Traders here aren't above a shady deal. Axel nodded, his eyes on the station's neon-lit docking bays. Got it. No bar fights, no pirate heists. Just fuel, food, and maybe a nap. Unless they've got a sale on pirate-proof armor. I'm running low on luck. Nerra's smirk was a small victory, her silver hair catching the console's glow like a starfield. The Defiant docked with a gentle thud, and Axel led a small group. Nerra, Core, and Liar, the translucent-skinned refugee, into the outpost. The station was a chaotic bazaar, its corridors packed with aliens hawking glowing crystals, questionable tech, and street food that smelled like adventure or food poisoning. A six-armed vendor waved a skewer at Axel. Human, try my glow grub kebab. Enhances stamina. Axel waved it off. Pass. My stamina's already causing enough trouble. Nerra snorted, guiding them toward a fuel depot. At the depot, a squat, toad-like alien named Grix haggled over fuel cells with the enthusiasm of a tax collector. Expensive times, Grix croaked, eyeing Axel's credit chip. Double the price for off-worlders. Nerra's eyes narrowed, but Axel leaned in, all charm. Double? Friend, I crashed on Terrace 9 and still smell like pirate. How about a hero discount? Grix blinked, then laughed, a wet gurgle. Hero? You look like a crash dummy. Half price, but only because your green friend scares me. Nerra's mock glare sealed the deal, and they secured the fuel at a steal. With fuel loaded, they hit a supply market for rations and medkits. Liar, still weak, but walking, pointed out nutrient packs suited for the crew's diverse biology. You saved me, Liar said, their glowing veins pulsing softly. I help. Axel clapped their shoulder. Your crew now, Liar. We're in this together. Core, hauling crates like they were toys, rumbled approval. The outpost bustle felt like a breather after Terrace 9's chaos, but Axel's instinct stayed sharp. Vex's reach was long, and neutral didn't mean safe. Trouble found them at a tech stall, where Nerra was eyeing a sensor upgrade. A hooded figure bumped into Axel, too deliberate to be an accident. His hand shot to his blaster, but the figure flashed a data chip and whispered, Vex knows you're here. Before Axel could grab them, they melted into the crowd. Nerra's face tightened. He's tracking us. We need to move. Axel nodded, his jaw set. Fuel's loaded. Let's grab the supplies and bolt. As they hurried back to the Defiant, a squad of armored thugs blocked their path. Their leader, a Scarface human with a plasma rifle, grinning like a shark. Axel Morgan, right? Vex sends his regards. Axel's heart sank, but he stepped forward, shielding the others. Tell Vex I'm flattered, but I'm not in a long-distance relationships. Core cracked his knuckles, looming over the thugs. Human talks. I break. Fair. The thugs hesitated, and Axel seized the moment, tossing a smoke pellet from his pack. The corridor filled with choking haze, and Nerra led the group through a side alley, her vibro knife ready. Blaster fire zinged past, but Core's bulk shielded Liar, and Axel's quick shots kept the thugs at bay. They reached the Defiant dock, piling aboard as Nerra gunned the engines. The ship roared free, the outpost shrinking behind them. In the cockpit, Axel sagged, adrenaline fading. That was too close, he said. Nerra's hands were steady, but her voice shook. Vex won't stop. Not until he's got me. Or you. Axel met her gaze, seeing the fear she rarely showed. He won't get either. We've got a crew, a ship, and enough stubber to outlast a black hole. She nodded, her smile faint but real. The crew gathered in the hold, shaken but unbroken. Shri chirped a song of defiance, and even ZYK joined in, its quills rattling rhythmically. Axel felt their strength, a tapestry of survivors bound by trust. The Emerald Nebula was close, and with Nerra's fire and the Defiant's heart, they'd face Vex's shadow and prove humanity's spark could light the darkest stars. The Defiant sliced through the void, its engines purring despite their patchwork repairs, as the Emerald Nebula's shimmering greens and purples filled the viewport. Axel Morgan sat in the cockpit, his bandage-sided dull ache, his eyes tracing the nebula's glow. Nerra stood at the NAV console, her emerald skin almost blending with the starlight, her silver hair a cascade of defiance. The crew, Shri, Core, ZYK, Liar, and the others, rested in the cargo hold, their voices a soft hum of stories and laughter, a stark contrast to Terrace 9's grim cells. We're 2 days out, Nerra said, her iridescent eyes on the star chart. My mother's people have a sanctuary world virus. It's safe, hidden in the nebula's core. Axel nodded, impressed. Hidden sounds good. Vex goons at Zynar proved he's got a long reach. Nerra's jaw tightened, and Axel sensed the weight of her past with Vex, a shadow they'd outrun but not outfought. He leaned forward. You okay? That outpost ambush rattled us all. She met his gaze, her vulnerability fleeting but real. I'm fine. Just... Vex knows me too well. He'll keep coming. Axel's hand brushed hers, a quiet anchor. Let him. He's up against us now. Crashlander, Vidian, and a crew of misfits tougher than his whole fleet. Her smile was small but radiant, reigniting that Hanger Kiss's spark. Besides, if Vex shows up, I'll distract him with my coffee. It's lethal. Nerra laughed, the sound easing the cockpit's tension. The crew's resilience shone in the hold. Shri had rigged a hollow game, projecting alien chess that ZYK was losing spectacularly, its quills rattling in frustration. Core taught Blink, the many-eyed alien, a wrestling move, their laughter shaking the deck. Liar, now stronger, shared a glowing crystal from their homeworld, its light calming the others. Axel wandered in, marveling. You lot are starting a circus back here. Any volunteers for the trapeze? Shri chirped. Human Axel, you fly ship. We fly hearts. Axel grinned, touched by the poetry. Back in the cockpit, a sensor ping interrupted their banter. Unidentified ship, Nerra said, her voice sharp. It's small, fast, and on an intercept course. Axel's got clenched. Vex scouts, maybe. Shields up, weapons hot. Let's not roll out the welcome mat. The Defiant S cannons, patched with the Scourge's parts, hummed ready. Nerra hailed the ship, getting only static. Could be a trap, she warned. Axel nodded. Could be, but we got a knack for turning traps into triumphs. The ship emerged from the nebula's edge, a sleek scout vessel, its hull marked with pirate sigils. Vex, Nerra confirmed, her hands tightening on the controls. Axel locked onto its engines, but before he could fire, the scout broadcast a message. Not Vex's voice, but a woman's, cool and precise. Defiant, stand down. I'm not with Vex. I'm a friend. Nerra's eyes widened. That's Terran, a Venturi survivor. She escaped Vex raid with me. Axel hesitated. Friend or not, she's flying Vex colors. Talk fast, Terran. Terran's voice crackled through. I stole this ship to track Nerra. Vex is rallying a new fleet, targeting virus. I came to warn you. Nerra's face paled, but her voice stayed steady. Why risk it, Terran? A pause, then. You saved me once, Nerra. I owe you. Axel exchanged a glance with Nerra, seeing her trust. All right, Terran, dock with us. But one wrong move, and Core's using you for sparring practice. He's got a mean hug, Axel added, earning a snort from Nerra. Terran's scout docked, and she boarded, a wiry human with cropped hair and eyes that had seen too much. The crew gathered, wary but curious. Terran explained. Vex had survived the Scourge's crash, salvaging ships and allies. He knows you're headed for virus, she said. He wants Nerra back, and the refugees as leverage. Core growled, and Shri's feathers bristled. Axel stepped forward. Vex wants a fight? He'll get one. We protect virus, together. The crew rallied, their defiance afire. Terran offered her scouts sensors to boost the Defiant S defenses, and Nerra integrated them with a speed that left Axel in awe. You're like a tech wizard, he said. Got a wand hidden in that jacket. Nerra smirked. Just my charm, human. As they planned, Axel felt the crew's strength. Shri's hope, Core's might, Liar's quiet resolve. With Terran's warning and Nerra's fire, they'd face Vex's fleet and prove humanity's spark could outshine any tyrant's shadow. Virus waited, and the Defiant was ready to shine. The Emerald Nebula enveloped the Defiant in a shimmering haze of green and violet, its sanctuary world, Virus, a beacon of hope at its core. Axel Morgan stood in the cockpit, his bandaged side a faint memory against the thrill of their mission. Nerra piloted with unwavering focus, her emerald skin glowing as if in harmony with the nebula, her silver hair a cascade of starlight. The crew, Shri, Core, ZYK, Liar, Blink, and now Terran, filled the ship with purpose, their voices a tapestry of defiance and dreams. Vex's threat loomed, but the Defiant was no longer just a ship. It was a rebellion. Virus controls guiding us in, Nerra said, her iridescent eyes on the comms. They're ready for the refugees, and they're arming defenses thanks to Terran's warning. Axel nodded, his hands steady on the weapons console. Good. Vex's fleet won't catch us napping. Terran, in the co-pilot's seat, smirked. You've got guts, Morgan. Most humans would have bolted by now. Axel grinned. Bolting's overrated. Besides, I'd miss Nerra's coffee. It's only half lethal now. Nerra's laugh was a spark, but her focus stayed sharp as Virus appeared. A lush world of crystal forests and glowing rivers, its orbital defenses bristling with Vidian tech. The crew gathered at the viewport, awestruck. Shri chirped, "Home? Like this?" Nerra's voice softened. "For some of you, yes. For others, a new start." Core rumbled. "Good place. Strong." Axel felt a swell of pride. This crew, forged in Terrace 9's dust, was ready to fight for that promise. The Defiant docked at Virus's orbital station, greeted by Vidian emissaries whose emerald skin mirrored Nerra's. Their leader, a tall woman named Silra, embraced Nerra like family. "You've brought hope," Silra said, her eyes shimmering. "And a fight." Axel stepped forward, his Crashlander swagger intact. "We're good at both. Vex coming, but we got a few tricks." Silra's smile was fierce. "Then let's prepare." The station buzzed with activity. Refugees were shuttled to Virus's surface, where sanctuaries awaited. Shri, Lyre, and Blink chose to stay, their skills vital for the defense. Core and ZYK helped Vidian engineers reinforce the station's cannons, while Terran synced her scout sensors to the network. Nerra and Axel worked on the Defiant, boosting its shields with Vidian upgrades. "Your ship's a survivor," Nerra said, her hands greasy but precise. Axel winked. "Like us. Think Vex knows what he's up against?" "Probably not. He's too busy polishing his evil laugh." As they worked, Silra shared Vidian history, tales of harmony and resilience that echoed Nerra's spirit. Axel saw Nerra's eyes glisten, reconnecting with her roots. He squeezed her hand, whispering, "You're home." She nodded, her voice thick. "And you're here. That's enough." The moment was cut short by a sensor alert. Vex fleet, a dozen ships strong, emerging from the nebula's edge. "Showtime," Axel said, his heart racing but steady. The Defiant joined Virus's defense fleet, a mix of Vidian cruisers and allied traders. Nerra took the helm, Axel manned the cannons, and Terran coordinated with the station. Vex flagship, a rebuilt monstrosity, broadcast his voice, cold and mocking. "Nerra, you can't hide. Surrender, and I'll spare the others." Axel flipped the comm. "Hey, Vex, remember Terrace 9? We're about to make that crash look like a warm-up." Nerra's smile was pure defiance. "Target their lead ship's reactors. Let's end this." The battle erupted, a dance of light and fire in the nebula's glow. Nerra's piloting was a masterpiece, weaving the Defiant through plasma barges. Axel's shots crippled 2 enemy frigates, while Core's roared commands rallied the crew. Shri's hollow drones jammed, Vex targeting, and ZYK's makeshift EMPs disabled a corvette. Lyre and Blink relayed real-time data, turning chaos into strategy. When a near miss rocked the ship, Axel shouted, "Vex throws worse parties than Gorn." The crew's laughter was a battle cry. Vex flagship closed in, but Nerra baited it into a trap, luring it near Virus's orbital mines. Axel fired, detonating the mines in a cascade that tore the flagship apart. Vex's signal cut off, and his fleet scattered, leaderless. The Defiant-S crew cheered, their voices echoing through the nebula. Axel sagged, grinning at Nerra. "We did it." She kissed him, fierce and joyful, her emerald warmth a promise of more to come. Virus welcomed the Defiant as heroes. The crew stood on the station, watching the nebula's glow. Shri sang, Core clapped, and even ZYK smiled. Nerra leaned into Axel, her voice soft. "Where to next?" He looked at the stars, then her. "Anywhere, everywhere, together." From a Terrace 9 crash to a nebulous triumph, they'd proved humanity's spark, stubborn, strange, and unstoppable, could light the galaxy's darkest corners.